Tales from the Lot, episode 0202. Oh, that's why they have balloons. Thomas Shortall and I discussed 31895 at the Philly Spectrum and one of my favorite authors, Kurt Vonnegut. Here we go. Hi, welcome to Tales from the Lot. This is Will. My guest today is Thomas Shortall from the Philly area. We're here to talk about 31895 at the Spectrum. How's it going, Thomas?
Going very well. How about yourself?
Awesome. Yeah, great. I saw, Dead & Co. just recently said that this is going to be their last summer. Have you been seeing them at all?
Twitter, I have not. No, I don't really have the money for it.
No.
It's not out of any ill desire or anything like that. I'd love to, but I just by the time you scrape together money for the ticket and then parking and everything on top of that, I'd rather watch it on Nugs or just listen to the audio.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's, just not, and it's not only them. Everybody's getting outrageous for tickets these days. But people got to get paid, and the guys loading in the gear got to get paid, and everybody. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not. I don't curse them for that, but they're too rich for my blood.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. I remember, I don't know when it was, maybe early 2000s or something, and everybody was charging. Fish was charging like $35 a ticket, and maybe Celine Dion or somebody was charging like 50 or something. But then the Eagles come out with this reunion tour, and they're charging like 150 a ticket, like 5 times more than anybody's, or 4 times more than anybody's ever charging. And ever since that moment, I feel like it's all sort of crept up.
Yeah, everybody saw it. I was like, wow, they can get it. The Eagles can get away with it.
Exactly. All right, so you're okay. So I'm back on track. You're from the Philly area, and did you grow up around there? And is that born and raised?
Yeah, about 40 minutes north of the city, a small town called North Wales.
All right,
very suburban. Every house has 2.5 kids.
I haven't been to too many places in PA other than I was in a band once that played in State College, and that was I had a good time while I was there.
Yeah, that's a good town. I had friends that went to Penn State. That's definitely a happening town.
Yeah, it was definitely a good time. And so, what were you into growing up? Were you a child of the 80s listening to
No, Dad were always there for me. I mean, a little bit. Like when I got rebellious, I went to that kind of stuff. But my parents' first date was a Dead show, so they were always there for me.
Nice.
My earliest memories of music, I thought Jerry Garcia was the guy who played guitar for everybody. I thought that was it. It wasn't until later I realized Dwayne Allman played guitar too. Like, and then I went through different phases. I went through a little metal phase. I went through a rap phase. I always came back though. I came back probably 3 or 4 times. And the time right before this show, my dad went with my parents every time they came to town. And then usually the summer they would go down to RFK or up to Giant Stadium or something like that. They wouldn't travel too far, but they would definitely get there every, the spring and fall they were in Philly. And then the summer, they were usually somewhere within, a half day's drive, something along those lines. They would come to Philly for 3 to 5 nights or something. It would usually be my dad would go with a buddy or, one of my uncles or something like that one night. One night would be date night for him and my mom. And then another night would bring the kids and make a family thing out of it. I mean, once we got to a certain age. My first show was when I was 9. We're now 8 or 9. 1987 was my first show.
Nice. Yeah, that's the thing. I grew up in the Midwest, and you grew up in the East, but the Dead toured so consistently in those areas that you didn't have to travel far to catch. Not that there's enough Grateful Dead shows to see, but you could definitely see 3 or 4 or 5 a year, and not travel all that far. It was like really nice. Yeah. Spring, they were going to come through there. Summer, fall, and then a little break in the winter maybe. Yeah, that was a cool thing about that time and living in that area. And I know my wife, being from Texas, didn't have a lot of opportunity because she was in South Texas, and they weren't coming anywhere near South Texas.
They flew over. They flew over.
So bummer for her. But so okay, so you say you saw your first show at 9. Where was that at?
Not at the Spectrum,
At the
which
Spectrum.
for anybody listening, if you've seen Rocky, that's the Spectrum where the big
Right.
fight is at the end. It's a very unique place. I wouldn't say it's great for concerts, but it's a great venue, if that
Hmm.
makes any sense. Like I have a lot of fond memories there, but it wasn't great acoustically. Certainly wasn't great practicality wise for getting around in the concourse and whatever was not built for the crowds that it began to see. But I was there in my
Hmm.
childhood times for Flyers games, this, that, the other. I saw more concerts there than I could even imagine. That was definitely one of the cool things. My dad loves live music, so before I was even a teenager, I had seen just about anybody you could think of in that
Nice.
genre. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. And then, okay, so you came back around to it and made it to this Philly show. So, um, well, I did want to ask actually, what's the lot scene there like? So is it like right in the middle of the city? Is parking like you pay $5 to this vendor over here and you're parking a lot here or there? Do they have a centralized lot? Was there a shakedown style friendly lot, I should
It
say?
actually very spread out because the area that the Spectrum was in also had, at the time, Veterans Stadium, which is where the Phillies played, which was literally next door, just only separated by a huge, asphalt expanse of a parking lot.
Hmm.
JFK Stadium was right there way back in the day, which is where, if you're familiar with that Crimson, White, and Indigo show,
Hmm.
July of '89, that was filmed at JFK, which was again right next door, all in that same area. And the stadiums are all still there. They're all three different ones. They've been torn down and rebuilt, but it's a huge expanse of parking lot after parking lot after parking lot. The fact that we even found our cars leaving there some nights is still amazing to me.
So they have like a centralized sporting event hub in that area just to
Yeah,
keep it all
yeah.
together. Yeah.
If with a decent arm, you could throw a stone and hit the other stadium. They're all within eyesight, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike Denver here, where like the Broncos fields on the other side of the interstate, and the Coors where the baseball team is at is like downtown, and then the basketball stadium's sort of downtown, but on the outskirts. It's just
Okay.
it's a mess. They just put them wherever
Yeah, I
they
can
could fit
imagine.
them.
I
Yeah,
never really thought about it, but I guess we were spoiled in that regard, having everything localized like
yeah,
that. There was really nothing too far off that patch of 2 square miles or whatever it might be.
yeah. Good for parking, good for transit, public transit, whatever. Just one central area.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but there was a shakedown. I assume people were out there vending
Oh
and,
yeah,
and doing their
absolutely.
thing. Some way somehow they figured it out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Uh, East Coast shows, from what I understand, I really only got to mostly Philadelphia and maybe Giant Stadium once or twice. Um,
Mhm.
very, very hectic crowd. I was never at a West Coast show, but I've had some of my father's friends who explain that the vibe out west is just completely different. Um, I would have loved to experience. It sounds like it's more my style, but Philly is definitely as Jerry put it, we're a very horny crowd, and I would definitely agree. We're eager to get in, eager for it all to happen, eager for our favorite song to come up, what have you. Eager, eager, eager.
Yeah, definitely a lively crowd. I was listening to this one and the crowd was
That
alive.
actually listening to that opener and hearing that crowd, it got me a little bit emotional, just because obviously being there, remembering the setting,
Hmm.
but just how responsive they were to every little. You could hear it in certain crowds where Jerry would hit a certain lyrical point or come in with a solo, and the crowd would just be right there. That was
Hmm.
really really cool to hear. I actually had driving up to my fiance's, I threw on the show. I was like, oh, I got an hour and a half to kill. Let me just listen. And that hit me, that Hell in the Bucket opener. You know what I mean? And hearing the crowd, and I
Hmm.
realized I got on the wrong highway, heading in the complete wrong direction. I went from the throes of ecstasy to cursing, and then starting to get my bearing. Bobby goes, maybe going to hell in a bucket, but I'm at least enjoying the ride. And it was like, it put everything into perspective. It's like, all these roads connect. I'll
Right,
just turn around. It was really cool.
right
It was,
on
it was a
cue.
very great. very Grateful Dead moment. And,
That's awesome.
27 years uh, past the point.
Right. So okay,
Yeah.
so this 31895 show, who did you go with, and
My
what kind
dad,
of an
one of
event
his,
was this?
well, there was a pretty decent group of us. It was my one uncle, my father, one of his real good close friends that I remember from years back in my childhood. Another guy who I just referenced to he was in the military in the 70s, I believe the Navy, and I think he was stationed in San Diego, and he was at a pretty decent number of shows in the West and other places. So it was a good group of, 5 or 6 guys, 7, 8 of us, somewhere in there. And I
Nice.
had some friends who a couple years ahead of me in high school that were also there. We ran into them, but I was with a couple of them the night before with my father. I was telling you in the email, it kind of got comical at a
Hmm.
certain point with us each trying to party respectively, but not wanting the other ones to find out about it. My one buddy, we snuck off and did our thing, and then came back, and my dad and his buddies were trying to do their thing. So my dad sent my buddy off to a porta potty, and they happen to be building the Eagles stadium where the Eagles play currently next door. And there's this bank of porta
Oh.
potties, but that was too close for my father's comfort. So he's like, no, you don't want to use those. The construction workers use those. So you want to go see it way over there? Go to that one. But he figured that was a long enough trip to send him on for us to burn whatever we needed to burn and have him come back. And I just remember him trying to send him over. My friend shoot me a look, knowing exactly what was going on. He knew exactly what the ruse was. It worked.
That's awesome. Back in those days, did you go to a Ticketmaster get your tickets, or did you mail order them? Do you
My
remember?
dad always did mail order. Um, and he
Yeah.
always got the seats. Now, like I said, we usually split it up between, family night and date night, and friends night or whatever. So he was usually down front when it was his friends. That was how he would divvy up the tickets. The nights he was down front, he would just take one of his buddies because that's a little bit too hectic to bring the kids and
Hmm.
or your wife. So they would usually chill behind the stage or something like that. Those two shows, those March of '95 shows, were the first time I was actually facing the stage. Usually we were behind, fairly close, but behind the stage. So, seeing Bill's bald spot and Brent was the only one in my childhood shows. Brent was the one that I felt like the most connection with because, I was like not directly face to face with him, but I could see his face. Whereas Jerry, Bobby, Philly
Hmm.
just saw the back of their head.
And he kind of looked like Jim Henson too, so there was that connection growing up.
He definitely reading his book talking
Yeah.
about got up to in the middle of a stadium on the drum riser, and I'm wondering, like, oh, I was probably sitting there watching him and not even realizing it because the drummers were right behind him back then.
Yeah. I've never been back there for, but it'd be great for me. I'm a drummer mainly, and it'd be awesome to sit back there and just watch during drums or something. Uh, yeah.
They can be
Unfortunately, never got a
hypnotic
chance
to
to do
watch.
that,
I
but
remember seeing one of the incarnations, probably was the other ones, post Jerry. I
mhm.
remember a couple nights really getting into watching the drummers. That can be really hypnotic.
Yeah, there was those nights when it was just really on, and I,
Drums can be fun. Space is definitely a bathroom break for me. Sometimes it
y-
can be interesting, but for me.
yeah, as long as you time it like right at the in between, right when they walk out and the drummers are walking off, and Jerry's still trying to figure out what's going on, and then that's the time to go and then get
Yeah,
back, and then
yeah.
it's good. Like
I
3 minutes
totally
before
get
that miracle starts.
the practicality of space totally makes sense. Those guys need a break. Jerry's got a few cigarettes in him, whatever else they might need to do. I totally get it, but auditorially, it's not the high point for me.
Yeah, yeah. This one though had a pretty good first set. Uh, Killer Hell in a Bucket, West LA. I always love that song. And El
Yeah, I do
Paso
too.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, the El Paso
West
I
LA
thought was pretty unique.
for sure.
Bobby was a good
Um,
on the El Paso, and I thought Vince was bringing some south of the border flavor to it. It really had that kind of mariachi type feel to it in certain parts. It definitely had a different El Paso than I'm used to. I don't delve too much into '90s shows, but it was fun to listen to this.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. That when as I was listening to it, that El Paso and the Ramble on Rose specifically kind of stuck out. Like wow, that's those were two really bright moments there in the first set between besides the Hell in a Bucket.
Yeah, and again with the crowd during that Ramble on Rose, they were right there in all the key spots. You know what I mean? I'm getting goosebumps listening to them when he hits that leader of the band, which is just there's nobody else in the world that fits that lyric better for me. You know, he puts that finger in the air, and then he comes in on that one solo with that classic tone, and that crowd's right there. And it's not even that. I mean, not that remarkable of a Ramble on the Rose, Ramble and Rose solo, but still
Hmm.
the effort, the pushing was there. The crowd was
Yeah,
feeling it.
the energy, like just yeah, it wasn't technically the most fantastic, but the energy that Jerry had with it and the crowd, and you could tell it was going back and forth. Took it a step up.
Absolutely.
Took it a step up.
Yeah.
Uh, and so where were you sitting for? You said this is the first time in your front. Where were you sitting for this one?
We weren't on the floor, but we were in like a seated section, but directly in front. I'd
Right
have
on.
to look at a map to point it out to you. But yeah, facing the
Right.
stage, right in center, in front of Bobby, but a basketball court away.
Yeah, yeah. So was it just GA down on the floor, or did they have seats, or do you remember how did they run that
They
at the
have
Phil
seats, but
special?
the seats are pretty much ignored, after a certain point.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine I saw it at some shows in the old Market Square Arena where they had like folding chairs on the floor as the
That's,
seating, and yeah,
yeah.
that just didn't work. That didn't work at all. Um, but okay, so uh, Tom Thumb. It sounded like people were singing "Happy Birthday" to Phil, although it wasn't. His birthday had been a few days ago, but that's a thought that counts, right?
If you pay, I gotta find a version where you can hear more clearly what they're saying. It sounds like Jerry says something pretty early in the show, which obviously is pretty odd for him to even regard,
Hmm.
the audience in any capacity. But they must have say something about it being Phil's birthday, and then they take turn. Bobby says it's Jerry's birthday. Jerry says it's the drummer's birthday. It's very rare to see them joking around, especially time. But that speaks to their vibe, the collective vibe that night. Everybody was feeling it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, then after they sing to him, he whips out Tom Thumb Blues, which is always a Tom Thumb Blues.
Yeah, it's
I love Bob Dylan, but this one I never did mind hearing it, but it's just Tom
no.
Thumb
I
Blues as
always
it
like
goes through.
Phil always editorializes the lyrics to Tom Thumb, which I enjoy. Hear different versions where my best friend the drummer won't even tell me what I dropped and things like that. I love when he sticks that
Yeah,
stuff in. But even singing, the regular words, he'll throw in an extra the or whatever here or there. But that's
it's
Phil.
true. It is. Yeah, I always liked hearing it, but it was never like the highlight for me. Did you hear that Tom
Yeah.
Thumb the other day?
No,
Yeah,
no, but I definitely enjoy it. I've always liked that Dylan song. Um, he might have been giddy
for
because he
sure.
knew what was in store. He knew what was in store for the next night too,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the Umbro chain the next night.
yeah. And then all it's all too much. What do you think of this song? That's that. I heard it. I think I heard it for the first time later that summer somewhere, maybe at Deer Creek or something. But um, interesting song for them to
It's hard
choose.
for me to get excited about Vince singing. I hate saying
Yeah,
it. The guy, he definitely he tried.
yeah.
um,
Were there any of
something
his
people,
songs that you
people
liked?
I don't mind Samba in the Rain, to be honest with you. I rather enjoy that
Same here.
one.
Same here.
Uh, it's something about the way he comes in on certain choruses and harmonizes. Just it's like a emergency brake for me,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it
And I
was.
feel bad saying that because I know he was a guy with some demons and he was in a lot of pain, especially very died. He did bring a certain flavors to the band. Like I said, he was great during that El Paso, but
Yeah,
singing, I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. I think. I don't know if bringing in Hornsby right off the bat, right at the beginning, at the same time, helped his confidence at all either. But
Yeah,
it is what it is. But Samba
it's
in the
very
Rain, yes, I'm with you on that one. Better, way better than Way to Go Home.
yeah. Um, cool. I love them doing Beatles songs though. We got two that night, two Dylan songs, two Beatles songs. Um,
Hmm.
it's kind of cool that the '80s they started to really honor the entire sort of rock and roll catalog, which is really cool. Playing Dylan songs, playing Stone songs, which we got one later on.
Hmm.
Beatles, obviously.
They definitely had some good influences and chose well.
Yeah, and they're a band that has nothing wrong with their native catalog. There's lots to explore there. There's lots of fun there, but the fact that they started peppering in all these different covers and stuff, and they essentially were a cover band, all the way back from their roots. But
True.
they really, like I said, to honor the entire catalog is really remarkable. I mean, it brought a whole other element of fun in the '80s and '90s.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, and not that it was ever repetitive or anything, but you know, I wouldn't mind hearing Weather Report Suite, more often, and less dilatitudes. But it is what it is.
I love that song. I actually got in the late '90s at a Rat Dog show. I got a chill bro hand gesture from Bobby one night because it was October. He used to come through Philly with Rat Dog. It was that time of year in like October, and I was just screaming weather report, and I was right up front. He kind of smirked at it for a song or two, and then he definitely started like, yeah, all right, calm down, fella. Like it wasn't it wasn't coming, and he heard me. I equally cringe at and cherish that memory.
You had an interaction.
Yeah.
And okay, so as we were prepping for this year, you mentioned that somebody had called the Ico Ico that came early in the second set there.
Yeah, I don't know if it was during the set break or if it was earlier in the. It had to have been during the set break actually, because my dad said something about Ico coming. He could just feel it, and the guy behind me was like tapped him on the shoulder. Stranger, but that's how we are at shows. Tapped him on the shoulder, was like, yeah, yeah, we need Nico, we need Nico, and like, I thought it might have been the second set opener, but it was right there, and that place was bonkers. I remember that was definitely the climax of the show. Ramble on Rose might have been my
Yeah,
personal climax of the show. That Ico was unbelievable. They were swinging from the rafters.
yeah. I was listening to
There's
it today.
there's
I was
video
it's fun.
there's video online. You can see Jerry bopping, which again for that time and knowing what was in store that summer, to see him having that much fun was really cool.
Yeah, as I was listening to that, I didn't see any shows in spring '95, but I saw a few in summer '95, and um, it, it it was there's such a difference even between just the spring, because I felt like by the end of that summer tour, Jerry was just checked out, like he was ready to go home and sleep or do whatever. But um, just such a vast difference between the show I was listening to today versus the end of that summer 4 months later, like 5 months later.
Yeah, and we even thinking back, it had to have been the Saturday night and the lot before. One of my dad's friends we ran into happened to be down in front the night before the St. Patty's Day show, and they remarked Jerry looks like shit. And if you noticed in the beginning, they take a little bit of break. Jerry breaks a string or something, and he
Hmm.
has to check out. And I remember at the time remembering what they had said the night before. The light bulb went over my head, like, uh-oh, little drama queen teenager that I was. Luckily, it was just a broken string, but it was the first thing I thought of where they said he looks like shit, and
Yeah,
it's a shame. He was feeling
yeah,
like shit.
yeah, definitely. But luckily, he was playing well on that playing in the band.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a fun sandwich. Or I guess it wasn't really a sandwich, but I always like that transition. That's a quintessential Dead thing. Those two songs just have to go together for me.
Right. Yeah. And if you're one of those jam people that likes to pick out the jams just to listen to, the transition on this one is particularly awesome, from the playing into the
Yeah,
Armtown's
and I
band. I
like
thought
that
like,
they take it out, but they keep it tight. Sometimes, admittedly, for me playing in the band, they put a little bit too long a tail on the kite. Uh, but that's the beauty of it because when they take it that far out, it makes it that much better when it comes back. But
what was your feeling throughout this night? I mean, you picked this one for a reason. What is the reason that that made this one so special, and the one that sticks out in your mind is that Grateful Dead show?
it was a lot of firsts for me. It was the first time I went to two shows in a row. So I was there the night
Hmm.
before. I was there the Saturday night. Pardon me. Eh, the whole experience. I had just for the last 2 years have been enjoying teenage hobbies. So bringing all that to the fore and my favorite band, it was probably the night that I remembered the most or recognized the most songs. Um, going as a kid, I would know this song or know that song, uh, Fire on the Mountain, some salient ones, but this one I knew,
Hmm.
a good chunk of them, so I really enjoyed myself. I remember, I think I was telling you the partying aspect of it coming in, and when you're a kid,
Hmm.
there's balloons there. Okay, balloons, yeah, they have balloons. Walking into that stadium under under the influence, and you see all the balloons bouncing around, you go, oh, that's why they have balloons.
Yep. Yep. And good on them for not littering. They put them to good use later in the show.
Yeah, and that was another connection I never made as a child. Where those balloons come from, I just figured they all stopped at the party store on the way down.
Right. Right. They do that now though. Everybody stops at the party store for those glow sticks, so they can uh,
Yeah,
mess up the stadium.
we were at a show. I think it was actually 2, 3 years right before that, the same exact date. It was 3/18, maybe 92, and there was a
Mhm.
huge chain of those necklace glow sticks that you link together. There must have been
Mhm.
50 to 100 of them that I linked together, and they were passing it around the top of the stadium. Uh, that was pretty cool. I know it was the same date. It was
Nice.
3/18. It was either 93 or 92 in the Spectrum.
Gotcha.
That was a cool show.
That was a good year. Yeah, that was a good tour. I saw. I want to see. I saw Richfield and Rosemont. Maybe I don't know. I can't remember. All those early '90s years kind of are starting to blend together now.
Yeah, that's when 92. I was kind of in my rebellious metalhead. I went because
Mhm.
we were going. As a fan type thing. It wasn't necessarily my bag. Had a good time because I would go to any concert, but it wasn't.
So, what were you going to
I
like
went.
Soundgarden? Was it and stuff like that at that time?
I was a
That's what
little
was
too
kind of
young.
big
I
in
wasn't really
'93.
going to shows by myself. I wasn't going to shows by myself yet. I mean, my dad's Metallica in the same spot, the same spectrum. Um,
Hmm.
we saw friend. We saw it was called Clash of the Titans with like Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax. That was a big
I
deal.
remember that
I didn't
tour.
go to a lot.
I wanted to go.
I didn't go to a lot of shows by myself, but I would go with friends.
Yeah. What's like the best show you've seen outside of the Grateful Dead? Like you walked away and you're like, wow. Not only were they just badasses, they had an incredible show, and it was just wow.
I remember being blown away. I saw Paul McCartney in like probably in like late '80s or something like that when he came around. That was
Hmm.
just a light show. The songs, the crowd. That was unbelievable for me. I was like 10 or 11 at the
Yeah.
time.
So you mentioned um, you had some experiences. You partied through your Dead times there, but later um, had some revelations and things in your life changed.
Yeah, things got a little dark there for a little while. And I was a late bloomer in that regard. I was an early bloomer when it came to to the normal teenage stuff, I guess. I
Hmm.
didn't get problematic until, after my 30s, but it caught up with me real quick. Cost me my marriage, and uh, that part of it might be for the better. But yeah, it was definitely. I'm still trying to crawl out of the damage that I did in like 2, 3 short years. Uh,
Hmm.
it's rough to think about in retrospect because, with what we saw Jerry go through, let alone countless other people. It's hard to think, we had in our head there was going to be some sort of success story. But
Hmm.
yeah, there, you know, uh,
And it's going on until this day with uh, the Foo Fighters drummer, and and any
yeah,
number of other people every single year for as long as I can remember. And as a matter of fact, like currently, I'm reading the Miles Davis autobiography, which I highly suggest to anybody, just because it's such a fun, crazy ass read. But um, all through it, he's just page after page of this person's a junkie, this person's a junkie, and this person's a junkie, and they all just die all through his life. From
yeah,
everybody from Billie Holiday to Bird and everybody. And it's like
yeah. I was about to
someday,
say Charlie.
yeah, I mean, and it's like you see it happen, make the connection, and but yet we still see it, year after year, and you know, it's sad, but it, I just feel like if you know somebody like that, reach out your hand, uh, you know, shake
Yeah,
hands with that
ab-
stranger and give them some help.
yeah, definitely empathize. There's, and I know speaking for me in particular, there was a lot of pain that, went into those decisions on the front end. And for a minute, it really does help. It puts a dent in that pain. But you have like 2, 3 good days of that, and then it catches up with you, and then it's not fun anymore at all. And it, I'm looking at the better part of a decade right now. I'm still calling out. It's remarkable where I'm at, how much progress I've made, but it took absolutely no effort to destroy everything, and it's taken every bit of effort to crawl back out of
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to talk to you, and I do appreciate you reaching out and sharing uh,
it. Yeah,
that
absolutely.
story.
It
and
was fun.
and yeah, yeah, it's awesome. I really do appreciate it. So thanks. So
Cool.
okay, so one last question. Um,
Sure.
Give me a recommendation of something that you thought was really incredible recently, whether it's a book, a movie, a TV show, an album, something that's when you finished, you were like, "Wow, that was different and really good." Something for our
Hmm.
listeners to check out when they've got a minute.
Recent, recent's a tough one because I remember you asking other guess that question, and the first thing that always pops into my mind is the my favorite book is Cat's Cradle. I recommend
Oh
Vonnegut to
yeah,
anybody. Cat's Cradle's great.
indeed.
That's my anytime anybody recommends a book, that's what I recommend. As far as recently, I would have. I'm definitely a revisitor. I don't go through a lot of news stuff, TV shows, movies. I watch the old ones over and over again.
I hear
I'm
you.
a huge Sopranos fan. I've probably watched that series like 20 times. You always get something new out of it. Very same ethos as the Grateful Dead. You can listen to the same thing over and over and over again, but you always pick out some little nuance that demands that another re-listen.
Definitely. So back to Vonnegut. I love Cat's Cradle. Um, my personal favorite is Breakfast of Champions of his. I have this theory that it's actually he wrote it about my hometown. Um, I think he talks about Fort Wayne and Muncie and some other things, but I'm from a town sort of in between all those, and one of the characters in particular walks through a river, and when he comes out on the other side, his feet are like totally encased in plastic because the river is like so polluted. And that's
Uh-huh.
exactly what was going. There's like, and he talks about the car factories, which was my town. So not only is it a funny book, that as I was reading it, I was like, holy shit, this is about us right now. uh,
Yeah,
but
very
that
cool.
yeah, but so Player Piano is another one of his books that I haven't read. That's the only one, so I'm just saving that one. So I've still got one more Vonnegut book to read someday.
You know
That's
what
my
was really, really good that I read recently? If we want to go somewhat recent, Bagombo Snuff Box is a collection of like magazine fiction that he did, and
uh-huh.
it's very, very. It has his flavor to it, but there's just it only like touches on the science fiction. It definitely has more kind of explorations of his view of different facets of humanity. It's like character studies, very kind of dishonest people, and as the reader you see their dishonesty catch up with them, and people kind of the theme of Mother Night. People becoming who they pretend to be. You definitely see where his sort of personal ethos kind of develops, before he was, not that he's a household name, but as much as a household name as Vonnegut is.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend that if you haven't.
That reminds me of Galapagos too. That's kind of like where humanity ends up as they're on the cruise ship, and
Yeah,
like the future of everybody's evolved or something.
yeah,
It's been a while since I've read that one, so I'm kind of grasping there. But I
yeah.
remember
I
there
haven't
was like
read it in
some
a while too, but I know we're all seals or something like that a million years in
yeah
the future.
people start turning into
I,
seals. Yeah.
the main character is like what Kilgore Trout's son or something like that. Something weird.
Yeah. We actually here in Denver that we have a Kilgore Trout bookstore downtown, and
Really?
that's the name of yeah. Uh, love going in there. It's right in the Hill area. Really cool shop. But if I might say so, just Slaughterhouse 5 also another fantastic book since we're talking about Vonnegut.
Uh, Slaughterhouse and Cat's Cradle I read at least once a year. And again, we were talking
Yeah,
about revisiting and gleaning something new every time. Both of those books, always pick out something new. Slaughterhouse is, almost perfect, and it's insane to me that you know facets of it autobiographical. Obviously, he didn't time travel
yeah.
to different planets.
Thank you so much for bringing that up too, because yeah, I think I have my copy of Slaughterhouse 5 sitting right next to me. I'm going to whip out and start reading this week or something just to revisit that. Awesome. All right, Thomas, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.